What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day and may God bless you. Anyways, let's get right into it. I'm going to do a Transformers character tier list. Now, let me preface this by saying this is an objective tier list and I am just doing off my personal thoughts. Now, I've seen Transformers G1, the original show. I've seen that show. I've seen all the movies that have been released theatrically. I've played a ton of Transformers video games. And I've watched Transformers Prime, but that is the extent of my Transformers knowledge. I am a fan of Transformers, but I'm not a diehard like I am for DC or Marvel, so my knowledge is not going to be to the extent as some other people, and I'm trying to make this as best as I can. Anyways, let's get right into it, and first off, let's go with Optimus Prime. I'm just going to get this right out of the way. And I'm just going to let you know that Optimus Prime is an S tier character. And let me tell you this again, all of my tier rankings are going across all media, so you have to compete if you're a character not only in the Transformers world, but you have to compete against everything. So that could be Star Wars, that could be books, that could be movies, that could be games, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Hunger Games, whatever you want. You can even go up against characters like Forrest Gump, which is an S tier character, so you have to be really good to get up here. But Optimus Prime definitely deserves that. Just look at him. I mean, he's a big boy Blue Scout. We have three main ones. We have Superman, Captain America, and Optimus Prime. He rightfully deserves to be up there. He's iconic. He's important to the story. He's an awesome character, and he's a fantastic leader and protagonist to follow along. Now, let's get next up into Wheeljack. Wheeljack has been in some of the Michael Bay movies, and he's been an integral part to the show, but I gotta be honest with you, I don't see him getting anything above a C character in all of fiction. Yes, he is a little bit different for the Autobots, but I'm not really sure that he does anything too integral in the story or is iconic enough to get himself above C. Next, we have Jetfire, which I always liked Jetfire. When I was a kid, I just thought it was really cool that the Transformers would have a ship that is also a Transformer that they could get into. I just thought that was an awesome idea. So I will put Jetfire into B tier. I do think he is a pretty cool Transformer, and I think he's a little bit more unique than Wheeljack or someone like that, because yes, all of them are Transformers and turn into cool vehicles, but he had an extended purpose. Blitzwing, I might get a little flack here, but I'm also going to put in C. Yes, he's an interesting Decepticon, and I just realized I did not put Starscream in here, so I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for that, but Starscream, I would definitely put into A tier as far as all characters across all of fiction. Anyways, Blitzwing, I'm going to put as an average character. He's kind of the villain of the week type stuff if you look across all media. Next up, we have Soundwave. In Soundwave, I'm going to have to put into A tier. He is an absolutely awesome character. You love the cassettes that come out of him. He's been pretty cool in both the movies and the shows. Honestly, he's way better in the show, especially the G1 with both of his cassettes coming out as the Bird and as the Cougar. And that's basically what I have to say about Soundwave. I don't think anybody's going to argue too much about putting him in A. Some people might want to put him in this close, but that, like I said, this is for characters across all things. Alpha Trion, he serves as the Obi-Wan Kenobi to Optimus Prime. Basically, if Optimus Prime was Luke, then Alpha Trion is Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm going to put Alpha Trion into B because I do think it's cool to have a character like Optimus Prime who's so recognizable, to then know that he also has an Obi-Wan Kenobi type figure that you can look up to. But I don't think he does anything special enough to get him into A. He's not as iconic as someone like Soundwave, and he's just not as cool in general, but I still think he's a little bit better than Wheeljack or someone like Blitzwing. Now, once again, I'm sorry I do not have Starscream in here. I just tried to get as many Transformers in here as I could. Anyways, we're going to go to Springer, and I think I'm just going to put Springer into C tier. I think he's an average character across all media. It's also really easy for me to put Transformers characters into C tier because it's so cool, their designs in general, what cars they can change into. They serve as kind of a duality in a character of itself because they change into a vehicle, an animal, or just something of that nature, a weapon. If you're a Decepticon, sometimes you're a giant gun. We'll talk about a little bit of that later. Anyways, that is basically what I have to say. Is I don't think any of these characters will go in doo-doo butter. Their concept designs are just way too cool to go into something like doo-doo butter. Next, we have Galvatron, which he would be probably the closest of putting in doo-doo butter. I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for that because a lot of people write this off in the comics and the original show that it was really cool when Megatron died that he comes back, but I think it's actually just lazy writing. I don't think it's something as integral like you see Red Hood when he comes back from the Lazarus pit. I don't think it has as much effect on the story as if you just kept Megatron alive, because there's no really twist there. Yes, they try to make a twist in the Age of Extinction movie where they're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Who's poisoned this? And it's not even a good twist because everyone can clearly see that Megatron is taking control of Galvatron. So I'm just going to go with him being in C tier. He's not Doodoo Butter because it's still a cool name, but that's what I'm going to have to say. Now, I'm coming to my favorite Transformer right now in the comments below. Put your favorite Transformer, and I'll go and see if you have a good pick or not. Obviously, I have the best pick of all with Shockwave. Now, as much as I subjectively would put Shockwave into S tier, or even this close, I do not think you can put him above Soundwave. I think they are equals in their villainy and just their loyalty to Megatron and the Decepticon cause. Now, Shockwave, I think, has one of the coolest Transformers designs possible. Him being a Cyclops is just awesome, and being the scientist of the Decepticons is really cool too. I think he's also probably the most pure evil character when it comes to the comic storylines that I've heard about and that I've done research for. He's absolutely awesome in Dark of the Moon. Yes, his character design is just another big gray robot, but the giant worm that he has and the destruction that he causes Chicago is really cool, and he also gives Optimus Prime his absolute all in the fight there. And then in the shows in Transformers Prime, he is by far my favorite character in that show, and he's just absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, I'm going to put him in A tier as much as it hurts me, but he is my favorite Transformer. Once again, let me know what you think. Now we have Ironhide, and Ironhide honestly has one of the saddest deaths in the Bayverse when Sentinel Prime, which I also don't have him in here. Yeah, I'm kind of choking a little bit, but if Sentinel was in here, I think that I would put him into A tier as well. He's a pretty good twist villain, and he brings a lot of lore and politics into the Transformers universe. Sorry, I do not have him here, but that's where he would go on the list. Anyways, Ironhide, I would probably put into... I would probably put him into A tier. He's pretty recognizable and he's integral to the plot. And in the Transformers movie, he has a bigger role than what most of the other characters do. And by other characters, I mean Transformers. As you can see, I do not have any of the human characters in here because they do not matter. Anyways, he does have a bigger role in the movies than some of the other Autobots get to have, because it's basically, we know it's just Optimus and Bumblebee at this point in the Bayverse. But anyways, we're coming to Kup. Now, Kup is almost like a Gandalf figure, a Gandalf character, but he is very rude and just kind of out there as a character. For uniqueness, I would probably put him into B tier. He's not one of my personal favorites, but I do think he is a good twist on a character that you wouldn't expect to have in the Transformers universe. Now, Trypticon, I always say his name wrong. I'm just going to put into B tier because I think he's just a generic dinosaur transformer. Grimlock is going straight into A tier. He has an awesome character design, one of the coolest toys of all time. He's pretty cool in Age of Extinction as well, but I don't think he does anything to get into this close. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is Cyclonus. Cyclonus, I'm just going to put in C tier. He is a pretty cool transformer, but I just don't think he does much to go above C tier in my opinion. Hot Rod becomes Hot Rodimus Prime. He has an integral part to the story. He's a pretty cool transformer overall. I think he has an iconic look. I'm willing to put him into this close. I think he's a pretty dang good transformer. Ravage is an awesome beast-like transformer, and I think he's just pure evil, and I could go with him being an A tier. I think he's pretty iconic. Omega Supreme is a pretty cool transformer, has a really cool transformer design. He's basically the parallel for the good side to the Devastator, but I don't think he's as cool as Devastator, and I don't think he has as much impact in some of the feature films, so I'm going to put him into B. And I just realized I didn't have Megatron in there, so I already went ahead and got Starscream in here. Sorry about that. Anyways, I'm just going to put Starscream. I changed my mind a little bit. He's going in this close. He's an absolute integral part of basically every Transformer story that he's in. He's always the right-hand man to Megatron, but he's always trying to betray him, which I think creates an interesting dynamic, especially when he was one of the leaders of the Decepticons at one point in some of the storylines. So I think there's a really interesting dynamic that goes on between him, the Autobots, Megatron. I do think he's a character that gets into this close, but not quite into S tier when you think of all media. Megatron, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you he's in S tier. There's absolutely no reason not to have him in here. He's a super iconic villain. He's a super compelling villain, except when it's in the Bayverse, which I think they did a terrible job with, but I'm not going to let that affect his legacy. Megatron is an S tier character. I mean, he's got one of the best football players having a nickname after him, Calvin Johnson, as Megatron. Just super, super cool. If you're interested in football facts, go look at this video up here where I have a really interesting video on the Dark Knight in football. Anyways, let's get on to RC. RC is a really cool transformer. She's a girl transformer, which is very hard to come by. As you can tell, this is dominated by a bunch of men transformers, male transformers. So just for that fact alone, that's going to work her all the way up to a B tier. But I'm going to go with A, because I think the colors on RC, yes, this actually matters when it's a Transformer, are very cool, and she does have a lot of story that goes along in the Transformers lore building. Next up, we have Unicron, and Unicron is the closest that it gets between S tier and this close. I'm going to put Unicron into this close purely for the fact that, yes, all Transformers fans know this guy is iconic, but you can say Optimus Prime, you can say Megatron, and there's one more Transformer that's about to get up that you can say to everybody that everyone is going to recognize, and being recognizable does not necessarily make you an S tier character, but it does have a lot of impact to get you up there, and Unicron is kind of this overarching big bad of the Transformers universe, like a Galactus figure, which I want to put Galactus in an S tier as an S tier character either, so I think it's only fair to have Unicron be in this close. He is one of my favorite Transformers of all time. If you want to see that list, just click right here above. But anyways, let's get to the Devastator. The Devastator, I think, is an absolutely awesome Transformer. I always wanted this toy when I was a kid. He's just really cool Constructicon for the Decepticons. In the movie Revenge of the Fallen, I actually enjoy the scenes with that Devastator in there. I thought it was a really interesting take. I know a lot of people aren't a fan, but I am. I would put him in A tier. I think sometimes he just is a giant brute force for the Decepticons, so he doesn't have too much lore or character development in there, but he's still super cool. Now, the last and final S tier character of the Transformers is Bumblebee, and I know this can make a lot of the original fans mad, because not that Bumblebee wasn't important, but you had people like Hotshot and Hot Rod that kind of were a little bit more important to the story than what Bumblebee was, but you cannot deny that Bumblebee has become a cultural icon later on in his career as a character, and his feature film was probably the best Transformers movie up to getting Transformers 1 as far as like objectivity and script goes. So I'm going to have to put Bumblebee up there, and I think he's a really cool character. I think he's really fun to watch. I think he's funny in the movies. He's one of the few Transformers other than Optimus Prime for the Autobots that actually get some characterization. Arachnid, she always was one of my personal favorites as a dang, I just can't remember the Beast Transformers. I forgot what they were called, but she was just really, really cool. I'm going to put her into A tier, but she doesn't do anything to get to this close. And Lockdown, who I think was an absolute standout in Age of Extinction, I'm just going to throw him into B tier, because I know he was really cool in that movie, but he's not as important as some of the other characters above him are in A tier. But this is my list. Yeah, there's a ton of Transformers lore that can go around. As I said, I am not a die-hard fan, but I am a big fan of Transformers. Please let me know what you think about my list in the comments below. If you're looking for more Transformers stuff, just click on this video. May God bless your day, and I'll see you in the next one.